Hi, so I'm Blitz and I'm getting over a cold, so my voice sounds like this. I have a doctorate in mathematical physics. And while Peter is going to address perhaps the most damning and obvious piece of evidence against the flat Earth, the sun, I'm going to take another approach. I'm going to show that believing the flat Earth claim seriously comes at a wickedly high price, one that I don't think anyone here or in the audience should take. So, believing the flat Earth is fundamentally anti-scientific, despite what, flat earthers will tell you, right? But believing the Earth is flat, or but rather by believing that the Earth is flat, you have to believe a series of other increasingly unlikely positions. These are things that directly contradict essentially the entirety of modern physics for the last 300 years. So, as a prime example, a flat earther has to discount the existence of mass attracting mass, what we call gravity. And the reason they have to do that is because we all know that if gravity exists, it would pull any sufficiently large mass, like a planar Earth, into a spherical shape. This rejection of gravity means a rejection of Einstein's general relativity, of course. And note that this claim is absurd on its face, because general relativity can be and has been tested locally on Earth in laboratories. Indeed, even early experiments were able to establish a high degree of agreement between theory and observations. As far back as 1964, experiments were devised to measure the effects of gravitational redshift as predicted by Einstein, with results agreeing with the model at the 99% accuracy level. Rather, flat earthers will often say something like gravity is electrostatics or its density, which isn't a force, by the way. And while it is true that electromagnetism is stronger than gravity, the claim that electrostatics can account for the forces observed flies in the face of everything we know about electromagnetism, and that's the force that we know the best. Notably, neutral solid metals do not extend outwards electric fields, and they hence don't produce electrostatic forces on other objects. And it's fairly easy to tell when a metal is electrically neutral. Alternatively, a flat earther might claim that its density, which I should remind everybody is just a number, it's mass divided by volume, they'll say that it explains why objects fall, but they can never account for why, say, two large lead spheres attract each other, nor why a quantity like density should imply any directional motion at all. When they do this, they're disagreeing with Newtonian physics that has been known about for over 300 years, the same physics that all of modern engineering relies on to work. A flat earther also has to reject the rotation of the Earth, as it implies a non-planar shape. Unfortunately, in doing so, a flat earther has to reject the Sagnac effect, which can conclusively determine whether the measuring device is in an inertial reference frame or not. Of course, when one uses a laser gyroscope, say, to perform these measurements, the experiment detects a positive result, namely that the interference pattern appears, demonstrating a non-inertial rotating reference frame. Of course, the original results of the Sagnac effect are consistent with both an ether model and special relativity, but neither are consistent with a non-rotating planar Earth. Certainly by rejecting the Sagnac effect, you have to reject special relativity. So to be clear, a flat earther has to reject Newtonian mechanics, special relativity, and general relativity in order to hold their worldview. So the question then is, who cares, right? Well, physics isn't done in a vacuum. It's built on a well-trodden path on the shoulders of giants, if you will. The audience might not know this, but the best scientific model ever produced, is a model in physics called quantum electrodynamics. And this model relies on special relativity, quantum mechanics, and classical electromagnetism, almost all of which a flat earther has to deny. And I can go into the details later, but suffice it to say, this model makes predictions that agree with measurements to roughly 1 part in a trillion. That would be 99.999 with like 10 nines after the decimal point percent. No other scientific theory even comes close to how accurate that model is. So to believe the Earth is flat is to reject special relativity and hence quantum electrodynamics, the single best piece of scientific achievement that humanity has to offer. To believe the Earth is flat is to reject Newtonian mechanics, the fundamental basis of literally all engineering. But, lest I be misunderstood, I'm not claiming with certainty that our understanding of gravity or quantum theory are perfect. Of course they're not. We drive science forward by improving our models and sometimes shifting the paradigm towards new, better understandings of the world around us. But bear in mind, when these paradigm shifts occur, old models are not thrown out and replaced with nothing. Rather, they're replaced by new models that can make even better predictions. And if that was what my opposition presented, this discussion wouldn't be happening on a YouTube channel. It'd be at a conference or in the halls of a university. But that's not what my opposition is going to do. They're going to present no alternative models with quantitative predictions. They're not going to do any statistical analysis, and they're not going to perform any rigorous scientific experiments. Only one of the sides on this argument can claim to have done all of those, and that's my side. So to my opposition and to the audience, is this really a price worth paying? In order to satisfy the belief in an undemonstrated flat Earth, one has to throw out effectively all knowledge of physics we have gained in the last 300 years. This means that bridges stand just by accident, not because Newtonian mechanics effectively describes the nature of force. That nuclear power used to power millions of homes works just by accident, not because the merging of special relativity and quantum mechanics. That medical particle accelerators, which are used to treat certain kinds of cancer, work just by accident, not because we understand quantum field theory. And that GPS works just by accident, not because we understand general relativity and gravity. In my opinion, it's far more reasonable to accept the position that the Earth is a globe rotating about its axis than it is to accept that all of our understanding of modern physics is false and its applications are just happy accidents. So to my flat Earth friends here, the burden of proof is high and it's on you. Can you reconcile the centuries of experimental evidence demonstrating the existence of gravity and the rotation of the world we live on with a flat Earth? Or do you throw that evidence away in favor of, it looks flat to me?
Peter, we'll kick it over to you. Thanks for being with us as well. This is the second half of the Globe Earth opening. Thanks very much, Peter.
All right. Trying to share my screen here. Is this working? You guys see my presentation here?
Crystal clear.
All right. And if I full screen it, do you still see that?
Even better.
All right. Perfect. I will just go then. No, nowadays there's a lot of confusion about flat Earth because flat earthers thrive on this confusion. They don't even want to acknowledge it, let alone correct it. So to clarify, I had to step in and coin a new term, robothemism. Put simply, robothemism is the belief that when the sun sets, it's going away instead of down. This might not seem that important at first, but I promise it is, so I'm going to say it again. I define robothemism roughly as the belief that when the sun sets, it's going away instead of down. You see, while most ancient cultures believed in a flat Earth, it turns out they still had eyes and brains. They could plainly see that when the sun sets, it goes below the horizon, so their cosmologies had universal nighttime and universal daytime. Today, we know the sun is always up somewhere, so nowadays the idea of a flat Earth can only exist by adapting. That started with this guy, Samuel Burley Robotham. In his 1865 book, he wrote, "Although the sun is at all times above and parallel to the Earth's surface, he appears to sink below the horizon. This arises from a simple and everywhere visible law of perspective." Robotham's idea here was brand new. And yes, I checked. If you've seen this flat Earth meme, it's pure misinformation. No ancient culture in history ever believed the sun set by going away instead of down. Just Robotham. Thus, Robotham became the father of flurfspective. Just look at this diagram. To make it work, he had to put a big hill right in front of the observer. And also crop the diagram because these two lines are parallel and will never converge. A flat and level surface that's under your feet cannot block your line of sight to something that's over your head. Even my 6-year-old niece understands that. Sunset is quite literally as plain as day, and modern flat earthers are sunset deniers. I have never met one that isn't. To explain it, they use an absurd variety of rescuing devices. A rescuing device is something that has no positive evidence and contradicts previous claims or evidence. I'm sure we'll see some rescuing devices today. But before we do, let's use this moment for some actual science. Through any 2 points, you can draw either a straight line or a curve. To fully disambiguate, you need at least 3 points. The more the merrier. Some examples. Eratosthenes' experiment used 2 points, but measure from a third and flat Earth is shattered. Elevation angles to stars correlate with latitude. 3 or more latitudes will destroy flat Earth. Similar concept here with arc length of longitude from Where's Wally using 1,300 data points. But you need at least 3, which usually requires traveling and or getting help from other people. Robothemism exploits this by isolating you, but you can still get 3 points by varying time instead of location, and that's precisely what I did. Here's a real diagram of how perspective works, not like Robotham's. With simple trigonometry, we see a Robothemist sun would follow an arctangent function through time. I demonstrated this visually by holding a flashlight at my waist and walking straight away from the camera until it was gone. If we overlay frames at a constant interval, we see the distance between images shrinks dramatically, then sits still for a long time before it's gone. But this is not what the sun does, and I took a 3-hour time lapse to prove it. If you're trying to measure the sun's size, exposure is a problem. To show this, I had two identical cameras side by side, one with welding glass and one without. But size was not the main thing I was trying to measure. It was position. I used a compass and sextant to get hard numbers, but the footage speaks for itself. When we overlay frames from the time lapse, when we overlay frames like we did with the flashlight, it's completely different. The distance between images stays the same the whole time. It just goes plops straight down into the horizon below eye level. Now pair that with the principle of time zones. UTC is 4 hours ahead of me, should be 5, but for daylight savings time. We all agree, I hope, that if I had done this experiment, this exact experiment, 800 miles east, it would have given identical results but an hour earlier. That means that at all times, for someone somewhere on Earth, the sun is currently going below their eye level. It cannot be both above and below a flat Earth at the same time. The only answer is that eye level is relative, changing by 1 degree every 69 miles. As assuredly as 1 plus 1 equals 2, sunset plus time zone equals globe. So, Tacori and Matthew, my challenge to you is simple. I measured the sunset and proved it goes beneath us. If you disagree, then explain where I went wrong. Show the math, show the missing factor, show a scientific theory, not a rescuing device, that explains my evidence. Thank you.